created Vitality 5 years ago, which is quite short indeed if you compare to likes of Fnatic or other teams, but I'd say still that we created the team at the right time, because if we were to create Vitality after 2013 when we started, it would have required a lot more investment, and when we started we just have a few euro from our own pockets, and we were able to grow quite quickly, and that wouldn't have been possible a few years later. So even if 5 years still seems short compared to other, it was the right time to market for us. If you were to create a team before that, let's say 10 years ago, that's very likely that, and that happened with most teams, that they didn't survive because there was no money in the ecosystem. Of course, you have some success story like Fnatic, maybe, I don't know when they were created, but maybe 15 years ago, that worked for them, and many teams from that era didn't survive. And 5 years ago, we were super lucky to create the team at that time, because it worked. We picked up very quickly, and we managed to attract sponsorship, and now we're in a different era where you have a lot of investment coming in. But I wouldn't say we are that new to the game. 5 years is very long in esports, and everything is changing year after year. You make a lot of projection, and then everything changes. So it's still a long time. When we started, it was all about passion. We love this sport, and we wanted to do our mark in that field. We wanted to win, compete in the biggest games, and that was all about that. And then afterwards, you start to understand the ecosystem you live in. And we were from day one super ambitious, so we understood that we need to monetize, we need to create a huge brand to be able to succeed in the field. So we switched it from a very passionate background, trying just to compete in the game we love, to a more strategic perspective when we started to understand what were the interesting games for the brand to develop and so on. So we had to switch, but still, of course, keep the passion. And at the end of the day, when you're watching your own team play, there's no feeling like that. It's so crazy, the emotion you go through, so we love that. Keep loving esports. We did many mistakes. I think the biggest one we did was we wanted to focus on driving revenues in the first years, whereas we could have spent the same resources to develop the brand quicker and expand on many other games quicker. But we didn't know how it would pan out, investment coming and so on. So we have to make sure we keep the company running. But yeah, in retrospect, I would have made some choices and allocated some resources differently. I can confidently say we're the best team when it comes to sponsorship, and especially non-endemics. So we're working with Renault, Adidas, Orange, Red Bull, Volvic, so it's a pretty insane list of non-endemics. The truth is there is no secret trick. What we are good at is understanding the need of such brands. We worked for a long time before we unveiled the partnership. If I take the Orange deal, it's been coming from 18 months. The Renault deal was 1 year of work before we announced. And that's because we offer good value in the way that we work kind of an agency on top of the right holder. We go to the brand and say, okay, what's your need? What kind of people do you want to address? And then we build a strategy to make sure they address those audiences the right way. They are being legitimized by the partnership with Vitality. So it's really an interesting role of a creative agency where we create the content and the communication of the brand with them. And I think, as of now, you don't have that many competent agencies that can fulfill this job. So that's why we do it ourselves, and way better than most agencies in the field right now. It will change in a few years. You have all the big names, Lagardère, Infond, whatever. Those agencies, they are getting educated in esports more and more. But as of now, we as a team, we think we can do this job better than everyone. So, and that's how we connect and interact with the brands. We try to keep the trend of announcement coming, be it sports or new game announcement like we did recently with Fortnite, or business announcement like we did with Orange recently. So we try to keep the pace. We have a lot of surprises coming, so I cannot say too much right now, but it's been a hell of a year for Vitality, and a lot of great things are in the works. No more soon. It's really interesting to meet smart people from the industry, and I think it's a responsibility that we have to educate the whole ecosystem. You have a lot of brands that, as I said, they don't know much about esports. Most of the brands understand that they need esports because they need to address the millennials, we all know that, but they don't know how to do so. And we have an important job of educating the brands, agency, and everyone to make sure we create a sustainable environment. So education is key. We do that on a daily basis with the brand or the people we interact with, but that kind of opportunity or panels or whatever is really good in that regard. So we need to keep doing so. Meeting the most relevant person in the industry, strengthening our relationship and educating the newcomers. It's an ongoing process, it will take years. You have some brands or people that understand faster than others. You have some brands where it takes a long time to make esports, make the hierarchy or the people in charge understand esports. It takes a lot of time. The bigger the brand, the more complicated it is, because you have to convince one guy, then the guy above, then the guy above. It takes time. So yeah, it's an ongoing trend, and we want to make sure people have the right level of understanding esports, because otherwise we feel it's not healthy for our ecosystem. And I take an example. For example, if you have brand coming into esports and you have people telling them, oh, that's esports, that's the figure of esports, but instead they mix a lot of figure from gaming, esports, they mix everything with a purpose, of course, to trick the brand and tell them, oh, it's way bigger than you think. It's not good for the ecosystem, because at the end of the day they will sign deals where they cannot deliver and what they promise, and it's damaging, because such brands, they might think, oh, esports is not that good, esports not that big, I will go away from esports. And maybe this brand, you lose it for 5 years and they go back to esports in 5 years. So that's very bad for the ecosystem. We try, at the contrary, to educate, to explain in depth what esports is, what are the figures, what is the audience. Then we make sure the brands or the people understand what it's all about. Then we can deliver and create a healthy environment.